Christopher Hawthorne, I think, is the most eloquent voice now writing about the place we share. He talks about the third Los Angeles. The first Los Angeles predated the automobile. It was a traditional town that Americans really brought the model from the Midwest and from the East. They built a lot of brick buildings. They fell down in earthquakes. And the second Los Angeles was the one that began with the Arroyo Seco Parkway, just less than 100 yards from here. The reality is that a third Los Angeles is emerging, and it will happen because of us. We will make the third Los Angeles. Ciclavia, I think, is an example of the way in which the third Los Angeles is emerging organically from the individual dreams of people saying, we're going to take this street, we're going to close this street, we're going to own this street, we're going to celebrate being together. And if we could take that spirit and apply it 365 days a year, every street in Los Angeles would be a great street. They wouldn't all be as crowded or as bustling as the 3rd Street Promenade, but they would be greener. They would be more beautiful. They would be safer. They would be more functional. People would take back the public realm that belongs to them. Now, let's confront the elephant in the room. We can't do this with the tremendous cynicism about the way politics works in Los Angeles. I spent 2 years at LA City Hall. I know that it is better than the reputation it has. I know the individuals who work there the place would not run for 15 minutes if it weren't for the heroic effort of some enlightened elected officials and some tremendously dedicated civil servants. The systems are all broken. The hiring system, the tech systems, the procurement systems, and the only way that city works is because people will it to work. They come to work every day and they call people in some other department and say, look, I need your help. Can you cut through the red tape? Can you get this thing done? Unfortunately, that's not the way to run a great city. It's doing the best we can, but the perception of pay to play simply cannot be allowed to stand. We have to begin to build a transparent system where you understand what you can build, where you can build it, and it isn't based upon anything other than good planning. Development has become almost like a lottery. You strike it rich. If you come into a place that's zoned in 1950, you know that that's not what ought to be built there. You propose something that's 4 times bigger than what you think you're going to get because you know it's going to be cut down in the process. And sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. Sometimes you make a great deal of money. I heard a talk one time of a guy who said, yeah, I've slogged through 12 years of entitlements. Everything's done except the litigation. That's not the way to build a great city. We all know that. We all understand it. Why do we put up with it? Why don't we fix it? Do we not have it in our power to create a transparent, coherent system for planning the future of Los Angeles? Are we that much less capable than past generations? As Gail Goldberg reminds us, there are no shortcuts. You cannot do real planning by fiat, by top-down. You have to involve the people whose lives will be affected, and you have to take a look at all the things they care about. Why do people not go to public hearings? Because public hearings are that place in American society where no one listens. The way to plan Los Angeles is to think about the water, to think about the energy, to think about the schools, to think about the mobility, to come up with coherent answers about how we're going to organize this city so as people in real estate, you don't have to do that on your own. You don't have to pay money to build a playground or money to do this or cut a deal with them or cut a deal with them. You'll be able to plug into a plan and you become builders instead of developers, right? That's the way great American cities were built. You knew the rules, you played by the rules, you didn't make whopping amounts of money, but you built Baltimore and Chicago and New York and St. Louis and Portland. We need to go back to that. We need to go back to codes that are very clear about what's allowed, and those codes need to be calibrated to the kind of neighborhood it is. You ought to be able to build high-rises in downtown, and you ought not to be able to build high-rises in Studio City, right? You ought to be, at least not in the wrong place. You ought to be able to calibrate this so that the plans make sense and they're defensible, and it's not on the basis that, that people can criticize you over the political contributions that you made or shut you out because of the political contributions you didn't make. Real planning is done by real planners, right? There are 16 planning directors in the city of Los Angeles. 15 of them don't have that title. That has to end. And the people who can end it are those 15 people. It may seem in their short-term interest to be in control of their districts, but it's in the long-term shortcoming to making a great city. We need to depoliticize planning. We need to make planning predictable, transparent, and inclusive and effective. It's not. Let's admit it. Let's fix it. You have to plan with people, and you have to plan for people. There's no shortcut.